This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 282.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, I'm excited. Upcoming events, only one next weekend. We have WordCamp Denver, July 27th to 28th. I have been to that WordCamp. It's a cool camp. I don't know if I'm going this year. I missed the last couple years for whatever reason, traveling or expense. I don't know. But if you're in town, check it out. Good group of people out there in the Denver area. I used to live in Colorado, for those who don't know. I was up in Longmont for about 4.5 years. Loved it there, really did. Never thought I would leave, but life is life. All right, moving on. Segment 1 in the news. Only really one thing to talk about here. That is Slack sent out an email. For those of us who don't know, a lot of us use Slack in our WordPress, in our businesses day to day. You work for a company, remote. Slack is that tool, quote, where work gets done. Well, I don't know about that. But anyway, they sent off out an email to everybody, and I had like 5 of them because I have so many Slack accounts. Quote, we were contacted through our bug bounty program by someone with information about potentially compromised Slack credentials. The email addresses and passwords people use to access the service. We investigated and determined that the majority of the credentials matched accounts that logged into Slack during 2015 security incident. So whenever that incident was in 2015, some of that correlated with the same passwords or login credentials that Slack was using as well. Anyway, that said, if you got the email from Slack, go and change your password. Simple as that. I did it across all 5 accounts that I have that I use for different things, different purposes, and I recommend that you do the same thing. So the passwords should be changed often and regularly. So yeah, okay. So there's that. Segment 2 in the meat and potatoes of this week's show, because that's all there was for the news. Meat and potatoes, forks, WordPress forks. Okay, so this week I want to talk about forking WordPress, or WordPress forks, because if you recall back in December of last year, WordPress 5.0 was released with the new editor, i.e. Gutenberg, and there was a bunch of drama about there and a call for WordPress forks that wouldn't have Gutenberg and would have a different path potentially. And WordPress itself was a fork, so Matt was like, okay, go right ahead and do such thing, and that was fine. So I was curious to decide, and I decided to check out the status of those forks, a couple of them at least, and I Googled WordPress fork, and I want to take a look at 2 of them for you right now, and those 2 are CalmPress and ClassicPress. Okay, so starting with CalmPress, I went to the website, CalmPress, is it .org? Yeah, CalmPress.org, and there's a bunch of information there. Starting with this, the mission statement. CalmPress their mission statement is make a CMS which out of the box provides the tools to create and manage websites for the modern age. Okay, cool. They also state that CalmPress is a web publishing CMS, content management system. It is a fork of WordPress that modifies the code and management idioms and adds them to whatever is required to get a more stable and calm, which is in bold, experience for all of its users, whether they are authors, admins, designers, developers, by taking into account the lessons learned over time and recognizing the requirements of modern websites, end quote. So, okay, I'm like, that's interesting. I'm not sure what to take out of that. There's a whole bunch of more information just on that landing page of their homepage in general, but I wanted to then dive into it and see what's different, what's the same, etc. of the fork. So I downloaded it, version 0.9, because 1.0 is an alpha. I put that zip file in the blueprints of my desktop server. I use desktop server for all this directory. And then I went to create a new installation using desktop server, and I installed it. So as I clicked the button to create a new instance, it installed, but it turned out that it was actually updated to 1.0.0 Alpha 8 based on WordPress 5.03. Did that automatically, which I thought was weird. So as I was going through the process, it says, welcome to CalmPress. Before getting started, we need information. So it wants a database name, username, password, and a host, and the table prefix. So I went through the process, not that hard to figure that out in desktop server, to go in and look at the PHP my admin, get the information. It was just basically root, no password, and then I ran installation. It then creates the tables for you. as WordPress normally does. It uses CP underscore instead of WP underscore. And that's when I noticed that it was running 1.0.0 Alpha 8, running the Calm 17 theme. So I poked around, added some posts and pages. Nothing seemed all that different. They're all child themes that they kind of give with you. It's still connected to the repository of WordPress.org. Not a whole lot difference that I could quite tell. I did go back to the website and I found a page called Possible Conflicts. There's relatively little difference in the code between 4.9 of WordPress and CalmPress 0.9. So things should, quote, just work as they say. Security plugins, they say, could be problematic, and automatic updates could be problematic. So interesting. I didn't really notice a whole lot different with CalmPress. And I noticed there's also a forum, which we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so moving on from CalmPress, I went over to ClassicPress, which is much more, a little bit more robust. I noticed two items when I went to classicpress.org, I guess that's what it is? Yeah, okay. And actually, let me double check that. I don't know if it's .org or not. CalmPress.dev, excuse me, CalmPress. Nope, that's wrong. CalmPress, that's my local. Just Google this one. It is .org, yes, okay, just making sure. Okay, so I noticed two things on their site, ClassicPress, and they have a migration assistant as well. Clicking the download button takes me to the GitHub repo. I downloaded the zip file for the basic ClassicPress, put that also into the Blueprints desktop server, created a new site, clicked install. It spins up the new admin screen, which is a different interface. I mean, not different, just a custom interface that looks like ClassicPress with their logo. It asks for a site title, admin username, password, confirm password, and then an email address. Clicked install, and it was really fast. Like, I was really impressed with how fast it did install, which I thought was interesting. I logged into the dashboard, and again, things look the same. The appearance, themes were all there. But what I did notice is the themes have been forked, and they're running all child themes. So it's 2017 is there, 2015, 2016, but they are all child themes off of the parents. So those were there as well. I did more poking around like I did in CalmPress. Nothing seemed different at first, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the fonts looked slightly different. And I also thought that the site was actually pretty darn snappy. Again, I'm running locally, but it seemed faster for some reason than it has in the past. It could have been my own experience. I haven't tested that for any speed cognition-wise, so I wasn't sure there if it's true or just me, but it did seem snappier for some reason. Maybe there's just less code in the code base. I don't know yet. I didn't dig that deep. I did notice this. In the meta box in the dashboard, there is a classic petitions is what it's called actually. And let me go back into my classic dev site and kind of tell you what that is. Oh yeah, so classic petitions. So it says your voice counts, create and vote on petitions. And there's a trending tab, a most wanted tab, and a recent tab. And like right now, the most trending, or the trending with the most votes is email default from and name. It was 3 weeks ago added there. So that was interesting. There's a petitions, and you can pop this out into another window. It goes into petitions.classicpress.net. So where you can add something, request what you want for ideas. And once it says suggestions that reach 50 votes will be put to an official vote by the wider community. So and there's a link to their democracy statement here. The ClassicPress democracy says the ClassicPress is a democratic community-led fork of WordPress that enables all stakeholders to shape the direction of the project that the project takes. This page aims to explain how we handle this process to ensure that the power doesn't become centralized and that every voice can be heard. Before continuing, please familiarize yourself with all the terms we use. So, interesting on that aspect of it as well. So, again, I poked around a little bit longer in ClassicPress. I installed a different theme. I was mucking with settings and whatnot. And, it did seem snappier, but again, not a whole lot different. There's no Gutenberg, so the editor is still the classic editor, but it's not called classic editor. It's just kind of right there. So, that leads me to this. Why? Why your own sandbox? So, per my friend Renee, her take on it was like Frasier. Frasier was a spinoff of Cheers and wildly successful. But I came back with the retort of, what about Joey from Friends? Because Joey had a spinoff as well. I think it was called Joey, and not so successful. So that tells us this. They are, quote unquote, frozen in time. They're stopping production, or they're stopping code-based changes into the Gutenberg era, into 5.0. So they're going to be frozen prior to 5.0. From what I can see. Is that a good thing? I'm not sure. I will say that ClassicPress felt good and better than CalmPress, yes. Maybe it's because it's based on its ongoing development. Both have forums, and this is what I'll mention. ClassicPress forums look to be much more active. CalmPress's not so much. So where does that leave things? It's hard to say. I would say check out ClassicPress if you want, but as change is the constant of the world, I would hate for anyone's sites not to work down the line. If support for something stops, if you're going to use CalmPress and all of a sudden they just go away, which could happen, I would hate for your site to just not get the updates it needs for security reasons, etc. There are a handful of other forks out there as well. There was one I was looking for. I couldn't find it anymore. And I can't remember the name of it. I'm trying to find it now. If I can remember it, maybe in a couple of weeks, months, I'll do another review on some other forks of WordPress as well because of this whole issue. Anyway, so there you have it. Again, can't hurt to know what's out there. I mean, it's always knowledge is a great thing, I believe. And if you really don't like Gutenberg, if you really want to go down a different rabbit hole or down a different route, check out ClassicPress. I mean, there's that. Will I? Probably not. I think I'm okay with where things are at. So there's my 2 cents on the forks of WordPress at the moment. All right, moving on. Segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tip, it's a tool actually. It's called Ditty News Ticker, D-I-T-T-Y News Ticker. There's a free version and I believe a paid version. I found out about this from my friend Jamie actually, who's using it on some of his sites. It just gives you a ticker on the top of a page. You can have in different locations, scroll left, scroll right, scroll up, scroll down, rotating, kind of like a slider almost. But I like the old style ticker. So if you wanted to add this to a site for clients to see, maybe on the back end, or for members, they could see the latest news kind of thing. Pretty cool. I have no connection to them. DittyNewsTicker.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. So that is it this week. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or use that SpeakPipe function on the website. You can support the show. You can become a Patreon, KitchensinkWP.com/Patreon, Patreon. And also thanks to the people who are supporting the show. Really do appreciate it. You can sponsor the show. There's a link on the forum on the website. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.